Like if you're a genuinely hardworking dude, you're physically fit, you're well-spoken and you take your faith seriously, I can guarantee most worldly people would look up to you as a man and as a leader.
It's kind of a matter of choosing between two loves. Like you can love God and be willing to suffer these rebukes and these persecutions for His sake, or your love is not strong enough to want to undergo the death of self, to suffer that. And then hence that's when you will fold under the pressure of the world, which, don't get me wrong, is seriously strong, and that's where this kind of, where this question comes from.
Welcome to the Fit for the Kingdom podcast, episode 24. You're here with your host, Tomas and Nico. Good morning, Nico.
Morning, bro.
All right, we're just going to do a quick Q&A today. Well, hopefully it's quick. We asked our Kingdom patrons for some questions around the faith, around fitness, around being a Catholic man, and they hit us with some pretty good ones. So we're pretty much going to dive right in. So first question from Tommy. Shout out to Tommy, you're a legend. Navigating being a Catholic man or a Christian man in this world where Jesus is the bad guy. So navigating the workplace, team sports, and any other places where you're around other men that aren't Christian themselves, and how to guard this energy and not get affected by these people without thinking to bite back. And I guess one final footnote that he gives to that. My question also stems from a stigma of Catholic/Christian men as being submissive and weak as well, which we all know is a rubbish belief. Yeah, it's a great question. I think it opens up, I guess, a lot of topics and sort of different rabbit holes to go down. I think number one, your point about a stigma of Catholic and Christian men being submissive and weak, well, I think that's obviously something that needs to be challenged. The sad reality is that a lot of Christian and Catholic men are weak, but obviously Christianity itself isn't weak. So I think there's a huge difference there. Like Nietzsche, for example, and like other philosophers have criticized Christianity as being quite a submissive religion.
Yeah, even like, I remember hearing Andrew Tate once, and he was like, the reason, like he was like, I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, and the reason I chose Islam was because they actually go out there and fight for their faith and die for it and stuff like that, which is like kind of valid, but I mean, if you want to change that, you got to be that change. Like Christianity is always going to seem as a weak and submissive religion if we just act like that, and if we're not manly, if we're not living out our masculine strength the way we should. And ultimately, the message of our Lord is to be the lesser, is to lower yourself, to serve and to love, rather than to always be in that position of power and where you get what you want, or where you aren't submissive. Because I mean, submission isn't a wrong in of itself. Like you look at St. Paul saying, "Wives, submit to your husbands." Like if submission was wrong, then that no wonder that gets taken out of context all the time. But it's not. There's a beauty to submission because there's humility in that. And so, I mean, from a worldly perspective, if it's judged like that, well, so be it. But how many times do you hear of the impact of the saints, just the secular people? Like, look at Mother Teresa, you know, and taking steps so far beyond ordinary means in submission and humility and love that it impacts people so deeply, because that's obviously the deepest language we listen to in our hearts, is that of love. And
I think, sorry.
Yeah, go, yeah.
Well, submission is to go under the mission of. So like, what are you being submissive to? If you're being submissive to other guys, or if you're like scared to talk about your faith, well, obviously that's submission in a bad way, where you're actually almost being cowardly about something that you believe. Yeah. What's the true meaning of Christian submission? Well, it's being under the mission, it's being under the headship of Christ. And that means that you'll be denying and shunning things of the world, and that you're going to be embracing spiritual goods, both of which will be made fun of by secular people. Oh, you don't drink, you don't party, or you don't sleep with girls, like you must be weak. Yeah. Or vice versa. Oh, you're so weird, or you're so gay because you pray and you go to church and stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, from a worldly point of view, the life of faith does not make sense. But it should be lived with passion. It should be lived with this idea of it's not like you're restricting yourself from things of the world. You're actually saying yes to something that's so much greater and so much deeper. And I guess, because the question's quite specific, it's like navigating the workplace, team sports, and other places. Because we can talk about the faith all we want, but then it's like when you do go out in the world, obviously it can be pretty hard. Well, that's why, especially for men, you can't be satisfied with like the bare minimum. Like if you as a Christian or a Catholic, your faith life is going to mass or going to church on Sunday and reading the Bible every now and again. The reality is that you're not going to be a strong and influential Christian because you're not even cultivating your own interior life. And when you do get challenged by people, well, you know, what's that line from St. Paul? Like you should always have reason to like justify the faith you have or something like that. I forget how it goes. So I think very much of our behavior in the world comes from that interior confidence and that interior life, which if you don't have, is going to be hard. But if you do have it and you cultivate it, it doesn't mean you're not going to be put in difficult situations. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be challenged, but I guess it's that self-possession which is so important.
Yeah. I searched up before answering this question, the Beatitudes. They were also just the recent gospel on Sunday for all the Catholics. And the last Beatitude is, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And then he goes, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven." And it goes back to what you said, like you have to have that foundation of the spiritual life, because it's kind of a matter of choosing between two loves. Like you can love God and be willing to suffer these rebukes and these persecutions for his sake, or your love is not strong enough to want to undergo the death of self, to suffer that. And then hence that's when you will fold under the pressure of the world, which, don't get me wrong, is seriously strong. And that's where this kind of where this question comes from, I assume. Like we've both gone through school, we've gone through team sports and all that sort of stuff, and you do get people from all sides giving you all sorts of opinions, but ultimately, if you truly love that which you value most, you're willing to stand up no matter what for that thing. You know, like our Lord says, what greater love is there than to die for your friend or something like that? There's no greater love than this that man can give. And that's the same for that. Like, it's ultimately a test of how much you love the Lord, and it's a huge suffering to have to lay down your own reputation or your own blending in with the people around you for the sake of this love. But in a sense, that's like the most beautiful and the most fulfilling thing you can do.
Yeah, and I mean, you're always going to be despised by the world in a way, but that's where I think it is so important that Christian men, I guess, be strong in the eyes of the world. Like if you're in a workplace and you as a Christian guy are the hardest working guy, you compliment everyone, you don't swear, like you're well behaved, you're jacked, and you have a family and you pray heaps, well, whether those guys say something bad or say something good to you, it's very hard to think that they would not respect you. Like if you're a genuinely hardworking dude, you're physically fit, you're well-spoken, and you take your faith seriously, I can guarantee most worldly people would look up to you as a man and as a leader. So a lot of this comes back to, it's like, well, what are you actually doing to be faithful, to be strong, to be masculine? Because if you're getting those fundamentals right, it's like those other environments that you might be in, you're kind of naturally do well in them. It's like St. Paul says, when you go before people, do not be afraid, just like the Holy Spirit will speak through you. And I think part of that is, if you're genuinely cultivating your interior life and you're a strong masculine man, you almost don't need to worry about those situations coming up, because you've cultivated the virtue and the masculine strength to where you're going to respond to whatever environment, to whatever variables in a good way. Like if you're truly humble of heart, even if someone is slandering you and like slandering the faith, of course you should stand up for that, but you should do it in humility and like, and you should do it in charity. And I think, again, as a man who's cultivating the virtues, I think those behaviors come naturally after the fact. But if we haven't got that foundation and that baseline first, well, we're going to run into heaps of issues and we're going to struggle in social environments.
Yeah, 100%. That's all very true. I think like it would be good to share like personal experiences for me in the last year playing AFL. Like there's been multiple conversations that I've had where guys question you about your Christian faith. Like I remember at the end of the year dinner, like the prize giving or whatever they call it. One of the guys like, oh, how do you like? I know me and two of my mates. I know you guys are Christian boys. How do you handle being around us guys who are just such retards and are always saying outrageous stuff? And like it's a valid question, but to me it doesn't. I don't know if I think this is the right way to look at it, but it doesn't faze me too much. I mean, it would be naive to expect anything different from people of the world. In the sense that like it'd be naive for me to expect them not to be blaspheming or to be swearing or talking about their Friday nights and their Saturday nights. Like when you don't have anything great to grasp for, you end up resorting to these worldly things, to these like intermediate fulfillments, and that like they're not reaching to the end to our eternal fulfillment. It's like what's immediately in front of you. And so like you kind of have to look past that. And that's not to say like I'm just gonna ignore and not do anything when people challenge me or when they talk crap, you know, like, but I think it was St. John Henry Newman who said something, or De Sales, one of those two. He is like, don't go and preach your faith by words, rather and like impose it upon people, rather through your action make them ask about it, because your example is what speaks. So like instead of bashing people over the head with the Bible, just live an upright Christian life, and that they ask you, how do you feel in this situation in which like we're doing all this stupid stuff and you don't really participate in it? Or where you have to tell them like what your plans for the weekend are and it's completely contradictory to the things they're doing. They ask you why, and you're like, well, yeah, I mean, one of the challenges I face is like, oh, why didn't you want to come to the pub with us, or to, like at the end of the year, they were all going to like some club. And you can say like, oh, I don't want to, or whatever, or like I've got something on, but like it's literally the opportunity to be like, I just don't stand for that.
Yeah. This
is not what I believe. And it's kind of what you're saying, like when you have that virtue where you just are disposed to do the good, where as a man you've built this strength in which that, in a sense, is a little bit of a courageous act. Yeah. You're kind of willing to suffer them saying like, oh, well, yeah, but it's like, well, it doesn't faze me, because what you're doing I don't value at all. I couldn't care less about going to the club after this freaking prize giving. Like I just want to go to bed. So it's like I have this opportunity to stand for my faith. I also have this opportunity to kind of escape while not doing anything bad. And it's definitely a challenge, because like, I mean, you do feel in a sense like persecuted. Even implicitly. It's just like, well, the whole world, the majority of the world is standing against Christian values, and I'm in this position where I'm standing up for them, and I'm kind of alone. It's like, well, how do I react? Well, yeah, you do have to ask the Lord for strength, but you hope that your accumulation of prayer, of acts of service, acts of charity, of love, of the Holy Spirit just working within you, comes to its fruition, and that you can stand for that you love.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And I guess one final point before we move on, I think, you know, you always get told, oh, you're being too extreme or whatever, but you hear questions like this, or you hear stories about what's happening in the world. And for me, that's just another reason on top of already many of why it's so important that we take life seriously. And like look at the state of the governments, like legalizing abortion up to the day before they're born, some babies being born alive and like being left to die, like divorce, like all of these problems, all of these fundamental Christian values which are just broken at every single level of society. We've got to do everything we can to fight back against that. Like, you're not going to catch me slacking or like taking heaps of holidays or thinking, oh, this isn't that deep, it doesn't matter. Like, look at the state of the world. Like, are you going to actually strap the broadsword to your belt and like wade out into battle, or are you going to, cower inside the cave? Like, this is why it's imperative for us to do this.
Yeah. Like, even I'm not one to say that like I will, as like if you were confronted with the guys like, renounce your faith or I'll shoot you, would you stand up for your faith? It's like, I don't know, but like I sure do hope that every single day that I've been trying to live for the Lord, that through that work and through the faith that cultivates, or through the faith that work comes from, that I could stand there and say yes. And the same as in these little situations, in which is like a kind of a small martyrdom, where you do have to die in that scenario to having that good reputation or fitting in. That I can stand up for my faith and I can stand up for the things that I believe in because I truly value them.
Training for martyrdom.
And like, look, you can call that submission and weakness in the eyes of the world. Like, I couldn't care less what you call it. But I'm sub the mission of Christ. I'm sub the mission of the faith. Like, that's what I value.
There's this great line from one of the church fathers, and he says, like, you have these kings that have everything in their power. They own land, they own money, like they own people, but they're lacking possession of the one thing that matters most, which is themselves. And it's so true. It's so true.
Man, that is insane.
Okay. Moving on, we got another question from Tommy. How about the gym or martial arts becoming an idol? I've seen some Christians in the fitness space claiming it can be an idol for some. Is this cope or is it legit? I'd rather dedicate and be obsessed to a healthy lifestyle than one that relies on the weekend to enjoy life, like drinking, narcotics, etc.
Yeah, that's a banger question.
Well, I think the answer, I guess the first question is 100% it can become an idol. I guess then the question is like, what constitutes an idol? I think as long as you're praying and like you're not sacrificing time with the family. I guess here's like a personal experience for me. Like when I was doing powerlifting, I was doing like 1.5 hour workouts 6 days a week. So I'd like finish work at 5 and then I'd have like an hour and a half of gym grind to get through. And I was still living at home at the time. And like I kind of woke up one day and I was like, shoot, I'm not spending any time with the family because like I'm going home to the gym. Sorry, I'm going home, then I'm going to the gym, then I'm having dinner and praying a rosary and going to bed. And I was like, I've legit spent like 0 time with the people that I'm living with. So for me, the shift that I had to make was like, okay, do I stop working out? Obviously not. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to suck it up and either do morning workouts and wake up earlier, or like lunchtime workouts where it's super hot and I'd rather like eat and rest. So it wasn't necessarily the question of sacrificing my physical pursuits or physical fitness, but making sure I wasn't compromising on my other, you could argue, higher responsibilities. Obviously now I'm married, so that's where like right now I'd never work or hardly ever work out after work, because it's like if I've been working the whole day and now I need to hit a workout, and I want to go to bed early, then it's like, well, when am I going to spend time with Julia? So I guess it's that thing of like taking a look at it. If I was sacrificing other good, necessary things for the gym, then I would say, well, then that's when you should sort of say, am I idolizing this? Or what adjustments do I need to make to fit this in a way that's not disordered?
Yeah, I think an easy way to put it as well is like, well, an idol is kind of that thing that you serve most, that which you value at the highest, as the highest good. And so if your gym or your martial arts is impeding your ability to do that of highest good, regardless whether you think that's the highest good or not, like there's people out there that serve themselves as their own idols that think they're doing the best thing possible they can do
Right.
through ignorance. But like, if you're aware that God should be the center of your life, which is the context of which this question comes from, then if your gymming, if your martial arts and your training is getting in the way of, for example, your family life, or it's getting in the way of your prayer life, most importantly, and your ability to get to mass and to participate in the life of the church, to serve and love your neighbor, that's when I would say you need to be questioning it, if this thing has become your idol or not. As well, I think thoughts are very indicative of the way your life is going and the things that you're kind of idolizing. And we do idolize small things, even to small extents throughout our life. So it's like the whole purpose of life is detaching ourselves from everything that's not God. Like Augustine says, love God and then love everything else. And as much as you love God, like that, God is primarily the thing that we seek for.
Yeah.
And then everything else is subservient to that. And so the gym and the martial arts, if you're thinking about these things all day, like you're obsessed, like, well, bro, I hate to break it to you, but like maybe this is becoming something that's too big and like it's too much of an aspect of your life, and that you need to kind of try and cut that down a bit. And that's not to say like pursuits in the gym and in martial arts are not good things, as they are, and like having these goals and like gives you meaning and value, and that's a great thing, and like you're building strength. But our life is ordered towards God, and it should be a life of holiness in which we are striving to become more holy, not more jacked and stuff, which can be good things, like becoming stronger, being able to do the next roll or move in jiu-jitsu or whatever it is. But I think it should come in an order. And for me, like, the way I really do look at the things that I'm becoming attached to is just like, how much attention am I giving them? How much time am I spending like thinking about this thing? And like I've struggled with I guess idolizing the gym a bit, or it becomes a bit of a vanity, and they're like, man, I just want to get that lift, or like, back in the day, I just want to push that hundy on the bench or squat, whatever. And it's just because they're very meaningful pursuits.
It can blur the line.
It can blur the line, but
I think it's definitely all interior mindset. Like, you have all these like looks maxing dudes, like getting the abs and stuff like that, and it's like you could be training super hard and it would be a well-ordered mindset. Like, if you're training, especially as a young dude, which obviously I would say that we kind of have like an added responsibility in that, as young guys and young men, it is our responsibility to physically care for people that can't, like our parents, our grandparents, or children. We actually do need to carry more of a physical burden. So there's a dude that's training heaps, he's eating clean, he's doing martial arts, and that's completely in line with his vocation, and he's doing it from a well-ordered mindset of like serving God and serving neighbor. You'd have another person who's doing the exact same actions, but he's doing it out of vanity, vainglory, and like pride.
yeah,
Well, that's where it's not necessarily the physical actions of spending time in the gym and stuff that's wrong, but he's just doing it from completely the wrong place. So I think, if you're a young dude and you are spending heaps of time trying to live a healthy life, it's 100% a good thing. But just watch what you're doing on the inside. Because I had that as well with powerlifting. It's like, because it is fun and you do enjoy doing it, and it's super easy to just like unburning all the other ships, and like you just, it can, I guess the devil tempts us with good things, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think a good nuance to make to the previous point that I made is with desires and thoughts. Like, you can desire to go to the gym rather than to do, I don't know, like it's a spiritual work or whatever it may be, because on a physical level they might be funner or more pleasing or release more dopamine, but it is a matter of, I guess, the continence and incontinence, and then virtue. It's like, are you just folding and doing whatever you want? Are you recognizing the good that you need to do and doing it though your desires are elsewhere? Or are you actually doing the good and wanting to do the good? And like, I think so long as you're balancing between continence and virtue, like you're on a good path, because that's the thing with detachment, is a lot of times it starts with continence, and that you don't really feel like doing this thing, but you do it. and you build that habit until it becomes something that, man, I actually really want to, I'd rather do this than do what I previously would have done, like the gym or the martial art. But yeah, like personally, some of my own experiences in having to give up the gym for something that I really just don't want to do. Like, I don't know, go, you know, one of your friends has been asking you to catch up for the past 3 days. And you're like, well, look, I've got this 2 hours after class or after work that I normally gym in. And so like, okay, I'm going to give that up today because I've gymmed the past 5 days or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or I had to make a trip into town the other day with Dad, and there was literally no time because we had mass in the evening. So we got back and it was a get changed and go to mass. Like, unless I want to be gymming at 8:30 p.m., I wasn't gymming that day. And that, like, the work trip was impromptu. I was going to gym at lunchtime. So I was like, I'm going to sacrifice that gym session. And I mean, it wasn't too difficult for me because it was like mass versus the gym. It was like no brainer.
Well, I guess in that case as well, because you have been disciplined, it's like discipline equals freedom. You've had the discipline in the previous days. That means that you're chill with having a bit of flexibility when it comes to it.
Yeah, it's obviously what you do every day that counts, not what you do on that exception. But yeah, I think it's really a matter of like, if you were asked to give it up like that, would you say yes? Or, you'd hope so in light of the faith. If it was for freaking going to a party or whatever, then like hell nah. But that's 100%. Not. It's a different.
There's not actually that many things which take precedence over a workout. If it's in your routine, like if it's in your routine, you don't really have much of an excuse to miss it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. Like, one thing I have struggled with is balancing that love of neighbor with your personal devotions or your personal, what you'd call duties. Like, I'd call the gym one of my duties, same as prayer and stuff. And it's just like, well, how far do you go with these sacrifices, in that like you're giving up what you deem as something good and that you kind of need to keep the ball rolling in your life, to keep this virtue, this discipline, these good habits, a clarity of mind sort of thing, in the light of like an impromptu situation that came up that you weren't really expecting?
For sure. I think, it's a great question. I mean, I don't have many of those impromptu situations come up, but I guess the question that I ask myself is like, in terms of my whole week, how much time am I actually devoting to others? Because at the end of the day, gym, obviously we would say that prayer and gym are not just for ourselves, they're to build ourselves up in order to give to others. But if my entire life is quote unquote building myself up, well then that's like a bit of an issue. So it's like, ultimately, while these things are very good, I ask myself, how much time within my day or within my week am I actually spending time on something that is good for someone else? Calling that mate, which maybe you don't necessarily want to, or you know you need to talk to him, so you're going to spend that time talking to him while you could have been doing something else, or spending time with family, or, you know, for example, we've been running the altar serving practice, which can sometimes be a bit of a grind. It's like you've already worked the whole week and now you've got to teach these kids. So if you're doing those things and you're ticking them off, I think that's good and healthy, and that's intentional. I don't know, what's the alternative? Like some party or some beach trip and all of that stuff. I guess that just comes down to, if you've done what you've needed to do and you've got a bit of wiggle room in the bank, well, no dramas. Like, maybe you can go. And I guess if you don't have that wiggle room, well, that's when, I think that's definitely where people probably struggle the most. It's like they've been folding from Monday to Friday, and now there's that beach trip which you knew was going to come up, and it's like, well, look, bro, it's a lovely day, you're going to get a bit of a tan on, all the boys are going, but if you've been folding the whole week, well, in that situation, you actually have a duty not to go. So I think it really sort of depends on the case-by-case basis.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a great point that you made about like how much time am I actually giving to building myself up and then for others, because it's so easy to fall into that cycle of like, oh, I need, like, your initial intention is like, I gym because
of others, or
to be strong to serve, or you know, whatever. But then it comes to the moment of service and you're like, well, nah, I've got a gym because that's my duty, but you've forgotten why you're gymming. That's actually for service.
That's right.
And so you've kind of gone in with the right intention, but being kind of stuck in there with the wrong intention. And in a sense idolize it, and that it's gone blurry, the vision's gone blurry, and now it's for you, or it's for you becoming strong rather than for you to serve, which is fascinating because like so often have I caught myself in that like little
like a
mental trap of like, dude, like, what are you actually doing? Because it's I'm not gonna lie, it's nice to finish the day having done all those boxes, checking all those boxes that you had on your list or whatever. But I mean, imagine having all those boxes checked and then failing your duty to love your neighbor, which God says is most important, sub loving him.
I think personally for me, that's why the morning is non-negotiable, because it's like,
get it done.
No one else is awake at 3 or 4 in the morning. No one. So you wake up, you spend leisurely time in prayer, you spend leisurely time hitting a fat bench workout, and then when everyone actually wakes up, or when you've got to go to work, you're actually in a real good state of mind, and you're in a peaceful state of mind, because I've done what I needed to do. I've even clocked in a few hours of study before everyone else is up. Now I am actually ready to give myself to my work, give myself to my study, and give myself to others. My conscience is completely clear. If I had to spend 4 hours in the evening going somewhere for dinner or spending time with mates, I'm more than happy to do that, because I've actually done what I needed to do. So the morning routine is not this goal in and of itself. It is good. I wouldn't say it's like intrinsically good, but it allows me to look after myself before I look after others. Because you can't compromise on that time. So the question is, how are you going to fit it in a way that's also not compromising with your other duties, as you said, the higher calling of love of God and love of neighbor.
Yeah, you give yourself that freedom. That's literally what it's all about.
I guess just to top off the question, Christians in the fitness space claiming it can be an idol. Well, if you're a Christian who's not working out and saying that it's an idol, well, that's obviously a cope for the dude saying it. Like, if you're saying, oh, I don't work out because it can become an idol, well, anything can become an idol. Liturgy can become an idol.
It's puritanical.
That's not.
It's like, I don't drink because you can get drunk. Well, it's like, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, drinking's not freaking wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. With those people, I guess you have to tell them, like, the body's like a temple of the Holy Spirit, and like you actually do have a duty, but you can't really convince people of that all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess it's more so about
and it's not virtuous. Like, to live in that fear is not virtuous, because you should be able to choose the right thing in face of adversity. Kind of goes back to the first question about like when you're confronted with evil around in your workspace or in your sports teams and all that sort of stuff. Like, can you say yes to the good thing despite being challenged, despite being pulled away from that? And it's like, well, if you can't even choose to do a good thing because of the potential evil that happens in its deviated form, then like there's something kind of going wrong with your disposition towards it. Like, we're called to live in the world as Christians, so to kind of write stuff off because they can. I mean, anything can be potentially wrong. Like, how much food do you eat? Like, do you not eat food because you could be gluttonous? Or do you drive on the road? Do you not drive on the road because you can be hit by a car or something like that? You know what I'm saying?
It's honestly just a retarded thing to say. Of course it can be an idol. No one was debating that. You should still be in the gym. You should still be grinding. You should still be training. You should still be doing martial arts. Like, anyway, I think we'll probably have to wrap it up there. We've got a few other questions which we might sort of bang out as we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this will be releasing on Wednesday, 4th of February. So if you haven't heard about it or haven't signed up yet, we've got St. Michael's Troops this weekend, Brisbane next weekend, Sydney, Christchurch, Auckland, Albury, all on the 7th, which is insane. Make sure you get there. It's a great day, great morning of fellowship, faith. We're going to be doing some judo, going to be doing some boxing, leveling up and connecting with other young men in the community. So yeah, definitely come to it if you have the weekend free. Yeah, check out the new website. You're more than welcome to join our Kingdom patrons. Obviously, they're the guys that were able to ask these questions, donating $10 a week to the mission and supporting the cause supporting the events, the podcasts, and all of the good work that's happening. So definitely appreciate the support from this group of men so far. Any closing comments?
No, but like even with the patrons, if you're willing to give something, if it's not $10, $5 or even more, it's greatly appreciated for the cause, for the mission, for the kingdom. Help us grow, help us spread the message.
Yeah, absolutely. And even time, like things like designing flyers, putting notices up, emailing the parishes, like there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, editing. Yeah, basically any talent that you have, we can probably put it to use.
Even spreading the message with your other Catholic mates.
Yeah, oh,
and families and stuff. Yeah, just literally spread the word.
All right, that's pretty much it. We'll talk to you on the next one. Go hard, keep grinding, keep hammering, and God bless.